So over 200, you know.
Yeah, that's what they
But
said.
I don't know. The brothers in Jackson, they ain't about their business like that. So I don't know. I don't know. That should have went nationwide. But they kind of quieted it down.
Yeah. And they're talking about that now. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Hey, hold on 1 second, family. Hey,
Yes,
family,
sir.
peace to the family. Hey, welcome to Sankofa, 180 degrees, man. How are y'all doing this day, man? Good Sunday, man. Afternoon. Uh, don't forget, family. I just want to say real quick, man. We don't forget we got the children's book read coming up Sunday, next Sunday. All right. Uh, real good. Real good shows, man. Real good books. Uh, come on and join us, man. Bring the kids. You know what I'm saying? And let's get these book reads, man, about African history, African spiritual. I mean African kings and queens and African situations, African events, man, real live, events and people, right? So this is our history, man, that we're talking about. We just, it's really important that we, get keep our history going, man. You know what I'm saying? Our real African history. You know what I'm saying? I told you guys over and over again, man, they're trying to change our history right in our face. They rewriting it right now, man, as we speak. You know what I'm saying? They got us in Florida. I live in Florida. They got it to where they saying that slavery was it was beneficial for the slaves. They gained some type of some all these skills from slavery. This is what they saying, right? And they don't want you to and you can't they don't allow you to teach Black African history in the school systems up here down here. All right, and they're doing the same. You know what I'm saying? And they do, and I think and they get ready to put the 10 Commandments in the school system. They're doing it in Louisiana, and I think they're doing this in another state that's doing it.
Said Virginia.
Yeah, I think it's Virginia. Yeah. So I'm just saying, man, like, listen, man, y'all gotta understand what's going on here, man. They rewriting history, and we gotta make sure that we show them keep our history right. You know, right and exact, man. This way, they're not gonna be like us searching for Kemet. They're gonna be searching for slavery and not knowing what really happened because they done rewrote it and restructured it into so it's not so embarrassing for the United States or these governments, right? That was involved. So anyway, family, hey, listen, that's all I want to say, man. Is just join us, man, for the children's book read, man, so we all can keep our history going, and not just the kids, but this is for us adults too. Because a lot of this information, man, a lot of us don't know, man. We just don't know. You know what I mean? We haven't been taught. We haven't seen any of these people. Never been taught about any of these people. You know what I mean? And so it's important that we know about them, man. It's really important, man, because they did a lot for us. You know what I'm saying? A lot for us, man. So anyway, peace to the panel, man. Man, look who back, y'all. Look who over up at the corner. Look at him, my partner. What's going on, Prince?
What's up, people? How y'all doing? I've been on the
No,
cahoots, getting my life together and just going through some changes. But I'm blessed to be back and to be here in Sankofa 180, man, and listening and loving it. It's good to see y'all brothers. So, salute the squad and thanks for welcoming me back, man. Really appreciate it. Very honored.
really.
That's right, man. And peace to the Queen, Carrie. How you doing, Queen?
Hey, Kings, I'm doing good. And it is good to see you back, Prince, and that you're doing well.
Thank
And
you so much.
yeah, and it's good to see you, Gerald. You look like you're feeling a little better, and that makes me happy. And of course, it's good to see Jamie and
That's
King
questionable.
Lo.
That's
Yeah,
questionable.
yeah,
Hey, right. Well, hey, we're glad you're here again, Queen. You know what I'm saying? You've been rolling with us from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? You're part of this team, been a part of this team from the start. So, hey, and then we got my brother, man, Gerald, man, my brother. Peace to you, King.
What you know? How y'all doing, fam? Peace to the panel. Welcome back, friends. Hey, Miss Terry. Appreciate that warm welcome. Unc and Jamie holding it down. Happy to be here as always. All power to the people. That's power, black love. Mhm.
That's right. And then we got, of course, the man of the hour. My man come through every time, and yeah, he come.
Fire
he don't
water, fire water.
Unc come through every time, man. Hey, I'm telling you, man. Unc he got enough information, man, for everybody.
Man, fire
Yeah,
water.
yeah. Hey, listen, Unc stepping up, man. He's stepping his game all the way up, man. I'm just letting everybody know. Is stepping his game all the way up, man. So, hey, shout out to you, Unc, man. Good shit,
Shout out
man.
to shout out to
Hey, but it's all your show, King. It's all on you, man.
One to y'all, one for me.
fire water.
Exactly. Exactly. Hey man, peace to the panel, peace to the viewers of Sankofa 180 degrees. Welcome back. We got a fire panel here always, man. These boys got tons, loads of information for you, man. So Carrie is always present and researching and conversating and all that good stuff. So I love this. So we're gonna listen to a PowerPoint from Dr. Shingi Mavima. His YouTube page is Pan-African Lectures, and his hashtag is Intro to African History. I watched a number of his videos and had a hard time picking which one to share today, but we're gonna jump it off, and it's about maybe 56 minutes. I don't know if that's 56 or 43. But we'll stop it at whenever you guys want to, but we'll definitely stop at half point and conversate and then jump back on it. And then we got the like Jamie said, we got the children's bookery. We'll never miss that. First Sundays, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you understand that it's Eastern Standard Time, and adjust your time zone to that, and connect on Zoom, and we get it. Bring your kids, man. Bring the kids' friends. Bring the adults or the kids, and we get on it. Pen and a paper. All right. So let me share screen.
Hey, just to touch on that book thing.
What's that?
Remember how I always wanted my book. Remember that shorty that when I was in Miami and her son got a book.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Hey, all I'm gonna say is this, I got my book.
You got it back? You crazy.
I got my book, baby.
Right. Hey, that was an adventure, man.
All
right, here we go.
As this group's that
Hey, Jamie, he graduated from Michigan State.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I put his bio up on Sankofa 180 degrees, along with this week's announcement of Sankofa Sundays.
All right.
All right.
Yo, stop that, DJ. All right, man. Welcome to the first lecture of the year 2021. We made it to 2020. What a tough year that was. We lost a lot of good people. May they rest in eternal peace. But we're glad to be here, man. In case you're wondering what that song was, so for those of you who are hip hop fans, or maybe even just pop fans, may recognize the first few notes of it from Jay-Z's Big Pimpin', right? One of his more popular songs from the late 90s, I believe. But the song itself is actually that sample, sampled by Timberlake for that song, is taken from 1950s, I believe, 1950s and 1960s Egyptian song known as Kosara, and the artist who did that song was Abdel Halem Hafez. So what's the relevance of that? First of all, it sounds very festive, and I figured it's a great way to start the new year. But also importantly, today we'll be talking to some length about Egypt, right? Ancient Egypt to be specific. Now, if I had done this channel in chronological order, this would probably be the first video I should have done. I didn't do it in chronological order just because different lectures were needed in different spaces and I wanted to get them there. But this would have been the first one. So today we are looking at late prehistory, if you will, beginning with the period just before ancient Egypt, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the dynamics of ancient Egypt. Okay, so I figured that would be a great song to start with it. Granted, the people of Egypt now are a far cry from the people of Egypt of 3,000 or 4,000 or 8,000 years ago. But in any case, it's the same geographical territory, and like I said, I just like the song. So this is part of our Intro to African History series. Okay, within this channel, I have a couple of different series that I run, but this is part of the Intro to African History series. So there are other people who studied this extensively: archaeologists, historians, Egyptologists, right? So judge the depth of this discussion on that level. That is an Intro to African History rigor, if you will, and I will put other sources in the description box if you are interested in reading this more, which I suspect that you might be. But without further ado, let me go ahead and get started by sharing my screen here. Okay. Zaringana. Okay, I will see you guys at the end as we do. Let's go. So before we talk about this, and I don't want to spend too much time on this part of things because there is an area that I'm only sort of marginally interested in. But when we look at Homo sapiens, which is the human family to which we belong to, the earliest dated migrations probably date back to 100,000 BCE. Okay, and let me take it back a little bit then and explain what I'm talking about when I say BCE. A lot of you guys already know this, but in case you don't, or as a reminder, so for a long time, the way our calendars, at least in the Western and much of the world goes, have used the BC and AD time scale, right? So BC being before, meaning before Christ, so dating back to 0 BC would have been 2021 years ago. Okay, then going backwards each year, it would accumulate. So 2 years before then would have been 2 BC, right before Christ. Then of course the year after that would be the next period, which brings us to 2021, which is known as AD, which does not mean after death of Christ, because that would leave at least like a 30-year period unaccounted for between BC and AD. It means Anno Domini, which means the year of the Lord, or the year that Christ was born. So then that goes on from 2021 years ago up until now. That's the AD era. Now, of course, it's a very Christian-centric time scale, and a lot of people have been moving away from that. And as such, other terms that are used in place of that. In place of BC, people say BCE, which means before the Common Era, right? Then CE instead of AD, but the time scales are the same. So you every now and then I might slip into say BC or BCE or CE instead of AD. Just know that I'm talking about the same period of time. Now back to the work at hand. So about 100,000, BC, folks start to migrate across Africa with Northern Africa, that area, the northern part of Africa, being the cradle of humanity. People start to move across Africa, and then some even move into Western Asia, parts we call the Middle East today. However, the first major migration was outside of Africa, was 60,000 years ago, when a lot of people moved from the continent into Asia and Europe. Then there's debates around when folks started to move to the, eventually made it to the Americas. But some dates even at 12,000 to 15,000 years ago. The recent findings I came across were talking about taking that further, even to 20,000, 30,000 years ago, because of the migrations. Okay, so now, between 16,000 BC and 11,000 BC, there is a climatic catastrophe, which became known as the dry phase, across Africa. Just hot, dry, inhospitable. And this facilitated a lot of some of the movement within Africa, right? In fact, the last video I did was on the 4 major language families. And a lot of the major language families actually split across the continent at around this time, as people sought other places to reside that were a little bit more hospitable. This came to an end around 12,000, 11,000 BC, and began what was known as the wet phase, right? 11,000 BCE, 6,000 BCE. So there was this wet phase in Africa, or the wet African phase, not to be confused with the warp that you guys know today. This was the wet African phase. And what that meant was, again, across the continent, the environment was lush, the animals were well fed, plants were growing, there was the rivers were full and so forth. So this marked the beginning of the agricultural revolution, what we call the agricultural revolution. And farming begins that same year, in 10,000, begins around 10,000 BC with, as people began to harvest wild grain that was growing, right? So wild grain was growing. So up until now, people have been eating fruits and things on the go. Hunting has already been a thing. But the idea of farming, people start to find wild grain growing and starting to harvest it, okay? And the more they do this, the more that they observe the patterns, they decide to domesticate it. So beginning 7,000 BCE, you see crops such as millet and sorghum. These are grains. These are the grass family. Sorghum, which is pictured here. And they they get domesticated. And the group that domesticated them are mainly the Afro-Asiatic communities and the Nilo-Saharan communities. Again, if you watch the video I did on the language families, you know these groups. And Afro-Asiatic, really, much of the denizens of Northern Africa, and Nilo-Saharans, North and Northeastern, and down to a little bit of Central Eastern Africa, start to domesticate these, right? Now, the moment you start to domesticate crops, right, or the moment you start to get into farming, right, we're talking about the birth of farming as a culture here. It leads to bigger sedentary communities. Why is that? Well, the idea of farming, right, it presupposes you claiming a few things. One, claiming land as your own, right? This is our land. This is where we get to do our farming. Whereas if you're hunting or if you're nomadic and doing all these things, you can travel from place to place and catch what you catch and so forth. But the idea of saying like, okay, this is the place where we farm. This belongs to us, right? Becomes important. And if you're going to do that, then you need to sort of have that set up, and that is to be more sedentary. Secondly, unlike hunting or groups of gatherers, right? Farming requires a level of hierarchy. How do you defend your land, right? Who decides whether somebody's contributions to this farm or to this project have been enough? How do we get more land when needs be? Okay, and furthermore, as people are more sedentary, as you guys very well know, I assume you guys live in mostly sedentary societies, there are certain needs that develop, right? Certain needs that develop as a community starts to develop, and that lends itself to the creation of hierarchies. We need somebody to be in charge of this. We need somebody to organize how we go about this. So this is, I would argue, around the time that concepts of kingship and so forth develop. Okay, concepts of kingship and so forth develop. Think about that, right? So if you're a more successful farmer than your neighboring farmer, you can buy more things. You have more people working for you, possibly. You can even build a bigger house and so forth, right? So this is when societal hierarchies begin. And so we see these early concepts of kingship developing there. While farming was developing, beginning, like I said, at around the same time during the wet phase, pastoralism, right, which is the idea of herding cattle mainly, but also other animals, was beginning to develop as well. So it starts under 8,000 BCE, really peaks in between 4,000 BCE and 2,500 BCE. You know, and some of the people became very proficient at this. The Nilo-Saharan communities, right, which as well as some Afro-Asiatic peoples, and that's very interesting to see because to this day, groups that are of Nilo-Saharan stock, right, to this day, when you look at the Nilotic peoples of the Sudan, some in Uganda and places like that, to this day, their relationship with cattle herding is still very much sacrosanct, right? It's still very much definitive of who they are. So that is pretty interesting. Then the Southern Kushite people, right, sort of South Sudan, that area, begin to specialize in cow herding, and eventually, due to trade and intermingling, the pastoralism argued to have picked up. I mean, the Khoisan people, who we also spoke about in the last video, are said to have picked up pastoralism as a culture for the Kushite people. This is around 500 BC, so we're getting close to the Common Era by this point. However, the Khoisan people never got into cultivation. To this day, they remain pretty nomadic, pretty much focused on pastoralism, then, you know, hunting and gathering as well as a community. So this just
so that picture up there looks like it looks similar to the paintings that was on the last week's video or the week before, that they claimed were older than the writings on the wall. Those pictures just look similar to me.
Right.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably the same ones.
Right. They look really similar.
But
Yeah.
listen to what he's saying. And I always say it. When you can plant and got agriculture, you're not a hunter and a gatherer no more. You settle.
Right.
Once you settle, then you gotta have rules and stuff. That's when he said a hierarchy. But there's gonna have to be some rules how to govern, how we treat each other, and we're gonna settle amongst each other. That's where that might not came in. But once you settle, it's something about that that's gonna take you on another level dealing with civilization. Not me saying it. You're gonna always hear the scholars. That's when they gonna keep pointing out. It was something about that. And again, with the Nile and then in Kemet, everything washed down to them. So it was like, this shit easy. And it made them motherfuckers just jump as far as civilization. It was way easier for them.
Right.
That's when you get the Imhotep building in stone and all that now. He done just took it to a whole goddamn level. But I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, because he's gonna talk about exactly what you was just explaining.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's part of being labeled as what they call a civilization.
Yeah, in the contrast to what
right.
we was disputing about last week.
Right. So
Two
so
weeks
this
ago.
is so this is where they get it. So you know what I'm saying? So really then you gotta say that the Khoisan people are not a civilization because they don't do agriculture.
Right.
Right, according to that definition. But it don't
Right.
mean it's a some or something. That's what sometimes we'll say, well, they don't meet the criteria for civilization. They must be some. Hell no. No, it don't mean that. They just didn't settle down. They still hunter gatherer. They still move around. And they don't got a civilization. They didn't build nothing. That's
But
all
they've
it
been
was.
here forever though. But they've
Right, the
been here.
earlier.
They've
Yeah, the
been here. They
earlier.
some of the
Yeah,
earliest people, but they don't count them as a civilization. And this is the shit that I'm talking about. And that you know, I just don't. I mean, I get what Gerald's saying because I mean, it's the consensus say that that's what a civilization is. It has to meet all. I think it's five of those criterias, right? It has to meet all five, and one of them is agriculture, right? One of them is a government.
right. And
You know what I'm
writing and
saying?
all that.
And
Now, if they
writing.
don't
That's
write,
right.
we gotta tell their history. They don't go around telling people they the oldest. We go around
Baby,
telling them that they the
point.
oldest because we found their
Like
bones.
it.
We found, you know what I'm saying? They don't know that like that.
Right. Right.
That made a big difference.
Right.
Just like Africans, when we go back telling them, y'all the mother, they don't know that. They're not
So
studying like we study. We most settled. I got a library. Most Africans ain't got no library.
right,
They into a survival mode. You
right,
understand?
right, right.
So I know about them more than they know about themselves because what they're going through.
Right.
That's
Right.
right.
Yeah.
But see, the
Yeah.
Khoisan, but they some of the oldest people on the planet, but they don't get credit for being a civilization.
Right.
So now you skipping over some old people that we know that is civilized, man. I mean, they just don't stay in one place. Like Joe was saying, they nomadic. They go where where it's at. They follow the food. They follow the water, right?
Right. But when we telling history, we just got to be able to tell that story like that. They what? The Twa and the Khoisan are older than us.
Oh yeah.
The Twa is what they call the Pygmies. Yeah, we followed the that's what they be talking about. We was following the star. We were a stellar people. We followed the stars at one time. Then we followed the moon. Then at last we stopped with the sun. And we call ourselves solar people now. But the Swa are the Pygmies and the Khoisan are way older. Then when they talk about Kemet,
But they don't.
it
But
means
they don't. But
civilized.
they don't. But they not. But they not. They don't. They not considered civilized though.
But
They're
if
not.
you talk about civilization, you give it to the comedians. God damn it. And the
Yeah, and
comedians,
there's
the way that we look at it, is African, and they just like, they're no different from the Pygmy or the Twa and the Khoisan from our point. We're all African at that level.
yeah, and the Twa and the Khoisan, outside of their skills, is what they want to show and represent as Africa as a whole and the history that they teach. And not teaching the Khoisan or the Twa themselves, just a depiction.
But that's what I'm saying. The Khoisan, the Twa is where shit. You could damn near say that that's the beginning of civilization.
Right.
So are any of those that come from them, are any of them civilized? Like, so this is how you skip over and say, well, this is the first civilization. Oh, okay, because why? oh, because we got this and we got this and we got this and we got this and we got this. So that's what constitutes a civilization. Now, if you don't have this, you're not a civilization. And so now you done cut out some of the oldest people on the planet. You know what I'm saying? They don't fit.
Yeah,
they
and the
don't they
doctor, the
don't fit.
doctor,
You
the
see?
doctor got one of those other videos that I had. The doctor got the map of Africa broke up in languages, man, by territory. It's pretty deep too. All right, let's jump
Yeah.
back on
Go
this real
ahead.
quick.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sets up the pace for some of the communities that came prior to the development of kingdoms and ancient Egypt, right? Or at least some of the things that were happening at the same time that ancient Egypt was being born. So we spoke a little bit about the Afro-Asiatic community and the Nilo-Saharan, okay? On the Niger-Congo, in the Niger-Congo community, which is mainly in West Africa at this point.
I meant to tell you guys too. He was born in Zimbabwe and lived there, and then came to the Americas.
What we find is they're also getting into farming, right? They'd also, during the wet phase, they've got into farming with the women famously planting yams. Again, yams which became definitive of West African cuisine to this day, such that it's even translated into being a prominent cuisine in the diaspora in Black America and the islands, as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, which centered largely on kidnapping people from West Africa. But another thing that also fascinating was the development of a solid fishing culture in West Africa, as showcased by this canoe here. Which is known as the Dafuna canoe, right? Discovered by Fulani herdsmen in 1987 in Nigeria. I believe it is the second oldest canoe known to men. Okay, the oldest in Africa for sure, but I think it might be the second oldest known to in recorded history. And it was used for different things like transport and trade as well, but mainly fishing. Then also, one of the pretty remarkable things, and those who know the guinea fowl will know how much of a triumph this was, that the West African people of the Niger-Congo stock are said to have domesticated guinea fowls as early as 2000 BCE. Now, that's a crazy animal, crazy bird to domesticate, right? But they did. Then eventually, we start to see. Remember in the last video when I spoke about how the Niger-Congo language group has two prominent groups, right? The Niger-Congo A and the Niger-Congo B. The Niger-Congo B, which is in most parts synonymous with the Bantu stock. So the Bantu people begin to migrate from northwestern Africa towards Central Africa, all the way to East and Southern Africa. They begin to migrate in 2000 to 2500 BCE. Okay. So that's a little bit about that. Now, I think we're moving on to talking about ancient Egypt now, right? Which is what y'all came here for, right? So as the wet phase is running rampant, okay, and has really invigorated this culture of farming and pastoralism and community and social hierarchies. The Nile River, right, the biggest river in Africa, one of the biggest in the world, actually, as you can see in this map, it's running here from the Mediterranean Sea, right from the northernmost point of Africa. Well, actually, it runs the other way. It runs from south to north. A little anomaly there. But in any case, this is it here, all the way. The end of it is not even in the screen here, but it goes all the way through all the cataracts, through Sudan, all the way to Egypt, right up until we are on the verge of Palestine and so forth. So, as these groups that were previously nomadic attempt to settle down, what's the best place for them to settle down? Well, it's the place where there is a lot of water, right, which is what's essential for their farming and pastoral purposes. And the good thing about it is when it floods, right, then you have a lot of water for your crops and for your animals. But even then, when it subsides, then the silt that it deposits makes the banks of the Nile fertile for farming. So people really like to gather around that then. So there's a population boom in that area between 5,000 and 4,000 BC, which leads to, as you can expect, when populations all come and cramp into this place, there's of course resource competition. And what does resource competition lead to? It leads to conflict. What does conflict lead to? Well, it leads to alliances. It leads to, again, to a development of communities, right? 100 of us land on a place. And for as long as we're each gunning at each other, saying nobody knows who's safe, you're a survivor, you know this. But you create alliances. They're like, okay, if the 5 of us band together, we can survive individual attacks a little bit better. Then maybe we can split the process. Yeah, but what about if 10 of us get together and so forth? So this is how communities grow. And out of that conflict, we see the growth of 3 political alliances that grow into what we call proto-states, early versions of states. And these are Jenny, Nubut, and Neken. Those are the 3 that develop around 4,000. And the earliest known kingships we know grew out of this tradition. And how do we know this? We know this by way of hieroglyphics that sort of depict the leaders of these proto-states in a sort of kingly era. And as well as their burials, archaeologists have been able to find their tombs from this era, and they are, they do represent some royalty. Now, these 3 proto-states were unified under King Nama, right, who's also known as Aha or Menes, around 3100 BC, right? So this is the time when ancient Egypt becomes united. Right. This is the time that ancient Egypt becomes united. So we've seen here how it grows after the population boom of 5,000, and almost 2,000 later, it is finally united as what we call ancient Egypt today, or as they would call it back then, Kemet. But we'll talk about that shortly, right? I'll make sure to account for that name change before we are done today. Okay. So let's talk about the Old Kingdom. So the kingdoms of Egypt are divided mainly into 3 groups, into 3 time periods: the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, and the New Kingdom. And we'll talk about that. But before the New Kingdom started, it was there was a short period which was known as early dynastic Egypt, right? So the first 400 years, the first, like you see here, if you're looking at the screen, we say here the 3 dynasties that define the Old Kingdom are the 3rd to the 6th dynasty. But we said that the kingdom had been unified in 3100. So what is that 500-year period where the 2nd and the 1st dynasty exist? That is what we talk about when we talk about the early dynastic kingdom. And I'd forgotten to mention this earlier, by the way, that the proto-states were able to grow. Remember the 3 proto-states we were talking about before they were united? They were able to grow by way of trade, right? They would trade in gold, ebony, and ivory. Who were they trading with? With Nubia. They would trade with Nubia, which is the civilization to the south of ancient Egypt, right? And Nubia will come up time and again during this presentation. So, get familiar with that term. It's located around where South Sudan and the likes are today. And then they also trade out as far as Western Asia. But back to the Old Kingdom. So the first two kingdoms are known as the early dynastic Egypt, but the Old Kingdom begins in the third dynasty with the king Djoser, spelled D-J-O-S-E-R. And it is within this time that so many things that are synonymous with ancient Egypt grew. First of all, the kings were defined as gods, not like we're seen as gods or they were gods, right? Revered in the same way that even the way they were buried was drastically different. This is actually the age that birthed the pyramids, and we'll talk shortly about that. But the kings were seen as gods, and we know this through the hieroglyphic text and through the paintings or through their burial rituals, such as represented by the pyramids. The local government of the Old Kingdom was divided into 42 what they called nomes, which are essentially provinces, sort of like states, right? And the nomarchs, the leaders of each of the provinces, the governors, were answerable to the king. And like I said, from early on, this territory was known as Kemet, and we'll talk about that again. I have a whole section dedicated to that. So it doesn't become called Egypt until, or early versions of the name Egypt don't come into play until much later, until thousands of years later, just before the Common Era, and we'll talk about that. So pictured in this image is a name you may have heard, and this his name is Imhotep, right? Who is just a super genius, just one of these generational geniuses. So this is how he's been described. A vizier, sage, architect, astrologer, and chief minister to Djoser, the founding king of the Old Kingdom. Who Djoser, by the way, is also worshipped as the god of medicine in Egypt and Greece, where in Egypt is identified as Asclepius, which is the Greek god of medicine. Imhotep is considered to have been the architect of the step pyramid built in the necropolis of Saqqara in the city of Memphis. So basically, there are no, when you look at old-timey intellectuals, and even to this day, they don't get much greater than Imhotep, and that is who is pictured here. If I come across an Egyptologist, I would love to have a whole video done just on the biography of Imhotep, because I think it is very fascinating. So that's a little bit about the Old Kingdom. Like I said, it is also known as the Pyramid Age. Okay, it is also known as the Pyramid Age. So Joseph, who we spoke about, was the
We got 4 more minutes, then I'll pause it.
first king of the third dynasty. Would go on to commission the first pyramid, right? The first pyramid was commissioned by Djoser. Also, during this pyramid age, Egyptian astronomers developed the first 12-month 365-day calendar, right? So this is a prototype of the calendar that we use to this day. Khufu, who was the second king of the fourth dynasty, would go on to build the Pyramid of Giza, which is by far the most famous pyramid in the world. It's the biggest. 2.3 million blocks of limestone, each block weighing at least a ton. No fewer than 4,000 men on site at a time, and it took them 20 years to build. The mathematicians among you, can you please do the man hours that went into that? I'll be interested. It's incredible. It's such an incredible testament to human willpower and strength, right? Then, in fact, it was the tallest building for a long time. For years after that, it was only surpassed in height in 1889 by the Eiffel Tower. Okay, by the Eiffel Tower, 1889. After that, it's been surpassed a couple of times over, of course. But imagine lasting from say 2,500 to almost 4,000 years later as the tallest building in the world. And of course, the Eiffel Tower is not He's not the grand structure that the pyramids are, with all due respect. But in any case, his sons, Khufu's sons, would also go on to build even more pyramids, with his son Jedefra building his at Memphis, which in ancient Egypt, Memphis was the capital of Egypt. Then Jedefra built his own pyramid on slightly higher ground, so that it looked bigger than his brothers. I mean, everybody's trying to have this look bigger than their brothers. So we're talking about pyramids here, guys. Then of course, Khafra also built the Sphinx, right? Another famous monument in ancient Egypt, the Sphinx. I should have put a picture of the Sphinx here for reference sake. So that's a little bit about the Old Kingdom, also known as the Pyramid Age. So what happened to the Old Kingdom for its glory? It lasted about 1,000 years. Oh, actually, they are the pyramids. We're talking about right now. Those of the sons. Then I believe that's the one that's the Pyramid of Giza. Then of course that's the Sphinx. So the kingdom lasted 1,000 years. Then what happened? Well, some of the things that happened are things that you will find recurrent in the decline of empires. First of all, the wet season vibes, the wet phase vibe that it allowed the community to grow so much so quickly. We're falling away in those persistent droughts and famines towards the end of the Old Kingdom. Because, like I explained earlier, that the nomarchs, right, the provinces had relative power to do their own trade between themselves and with other groups, and as long as they paid the tax to the kings, many of them got very powerful, right? And many of the nomarchs got pretty powerful, and started to assert their power more and more. And as they did so, the king's power waned, right? They stopped paying taxes. And as they sought for more power, they started fighting among each other as well. And especially when there's droughts and the famines, right? People are depending more on local enterprise. People are working harder to feed themselves. So they're like, yo, why do we keep paying all these taxes? And why do we keep paying allegiance to the king when we are here doing our thing? So that really led to the collapse of the unified kingdom. And actually, to show that things had gone so far south, the pyramids that had been consistently built for the past 1,000 years were, they stopped being built for 100 years. And in fact, the Nubians to the south, where large sections of Nubia, right, had been captured by the kingdom, were able to attack the Old Kingdom on its deathbed and reclaim much of their territory as well. So this marked the end of the Old Kingdom.
So we'll pause there for a minute. Gary, you want to speak on any of that?
Well, no, it was really interesting. It made me question civilizations and how that, that's what I was talking to you about when I saw you. But no, it's interesting. I like seeing how the different ages and how they switched and that kind of thing. Thank you.
Yeah, so you remember the last couple of weeks we talked about that, but that information takes hearing it again and discussing your thoughts and stuff like that. So I know the boys would be willing to go over that with you in the disputes, and maybe Erica even get back on and share his side and stuff like that. So Prince, what's up, man? You want to say anything about that?
Hey, well, I sent you something in your message I wanted to check out. And I didn't know that when he talked about the Giza pyramid, I somewhat was into the pyramids and the healing parts of it and whatnot. And I found out that about the Giza pyramid, that it was accidentally seen above, but it had actually 8 sides. You can only see it in a certain spectrum of the sun. That's the only pyramid that's supposed to be eight-sided was the Giza pyramid. You can't see it normally, but it has to be a certain time of the year or something. They said that you could actually see it, but a pilot flew over it and he saw it, took a picture of it, how it has eight sides to it. I never knew
Yeah, yeah. I'll send you this video that Eric sent a while ago, and I just revisited it, and I'll send you that video, and it's a pretty good the best depiction of how the pyramids were made. All right. So I'll send that to you, Prince.
On the other part of it, it was very, very, very interesting, man, and informative. I'll tell you that much, man. I didn't know that there was even civilizations out there before the ones that we know about from our history. You know what I mean? So, and since they did, and just the definition of civilized, how certain people depict what civilized is. You know what I mean? Because for a long time they were like they're uncivilized. They would call them, African savages and whatnot to their eyesight. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was pretty interesting too, how people have their own definition of what civilized is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we got it. Like I was sharing with Carrie, Prince. We just had a great discussion. It was 2 weeks ago actually, and then we had visited that civilization aspect prior to along the way and stuff like that too. So it's pretty well understood why and how the description of civilization is what it is. So and we was going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and we come to a consensus of, I mean, this is it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But then they just shared again on this presentation that that description of civilization. What you may be expressing, what Carrie is expressing, the difficulties in understanding why it is today, right? The way it is today, and how come it has so much yank, so we can always talk about that. There's good conversation. Anybody else? Either one of you guys?
Oh, I think my man is dead on. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure about the Sphinx and all that, man. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I ain't seen nothing. My man, good. He's teaching.
What's your discrepancy with the Sphinx?
Well, I'm not sure, man. I mean, he said that the Khufu's sons built the Sphinx, and I'm just thinking that I just my teachings say that the Sphinx is much older than the pyramids.
And that's what I heard too. That's what I got from my research on it too, that the Sphinx is older. And it's even supposed to be a Sphinx in the United States of America somewhere. But when I looked into it, it's like they ain't trying to let you find out. You're supposed to have pyramids here too. One in St. Louis that they're trying to make into a highway, but that's supposed to be one of the biggest pyramids in the United States. Yeah, so.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Gerald,
So
go ahead, Prince. Jamie.
no, go ahead. I'm good.
No.
So how do you feel about that, Gerald, or Onk, or Jamie, about the pyramids in the United States? Because I feel it had, when I looked at the picture, it looked like it could have been a topping. But what it was said was that all the the native tribes that were here came together at one time, and agriculture in that area in St. Louis at that pyramid that is there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on the Americanized pyramids, except that they're plentiful and they're younger. I mean, older than ours are older. Africa's are older. The Giza and all them are older. That's what I know about that. Gerald?
You got some pyramids in Mexico. When I'm meaning the pyramids, I mean stone. In that part of the world where you're talking about, they have a bunch of mounds. And these mounds, they say, is almost shaped like a pyramid. But
So,
The whole pyramid concept comes from a mound. So, you know, but as far as building in stone, you got down in where the almix was, they got a step pyramid that they built in Mexico today. I mean, that's my, they always talk about the Mississippi was just like the Nile, and, a bunch of different things like that.
Yeah.
yeah, I've heard that too, where they try to make it all the way out of Africa into the United States. Yeah, I heard that bullcrap.
And they found pyramid stuff in the Grand Canyon and all kind of stuff like that. But I don't get too much into it, you know what I'm saying? So they can really show me the evidence and just talk. But as far as this brother on the presentation, he on it. That part when you talking about Jamie, they folks did reconstruction on the Sphinx at that time point. Is what it's the history folks to me. And they basically did reconstruction on the Sphinx. But the Sphinx got water in it. So that Sphinx been there for, and we pushing it back to 12,000 BC. Sometimes 36,000. But, But,
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I mean, they said the brothers said that the sons built it. Now, that's why I said I ain't sure about that. I ain't gonna go with that one. But
that's why I say reconstructing it.
yeah, now I remember they went through a reconstruction.
That's that faith was a Khufu, and before that, it was a woman's faith. So, it's different along.
Yeah,
you get into that, man.
I know they went into it. I know they went. I know they did a they redid it. But
yeah.
I'm just saying, with the way he put it, they built it, and I ain't gonna better go with that one. But to add on to it or reconstruct it, I know they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if y'all want to look into it, what I was talking about is called Monk's Mound. That's what it's called.
But see, one thing about that, Prince, is this, man. You gotta all pay attention to what they built, what they built it in. Did they build it with mud, or did they build it with, because at a time they wasn't building with stone. Then they started building with stone. So it's an evolution with that. They didn't just start building them. You know what I'm saying? So there was an evolution with that, because before Khufu built pyramids, there were already pyramids in Nubia.
Way across town.
There was already pyramids there. They were already there.
Already. Yeah, I wasn't taking nothing from it. I was just adding on with that pyramid.
What was that name you said, Prince? What was that name you said?
Monk's Mound.
Monk's Mound?
Yes, sir. East St. Louis, Illinois. They even have they're trying to completely cover it up to discard it. They didn't even I'm just saying it's got to be weird because they didn't even try to save it. They let grass grow on it, and they're even trying to get rid of it completely to make a highway, put a highway through it. And you got native people down there fighting for it now to save it. But it's called Monk's Mound, where it's supposed to be all of the tribes that were over in the Americas that they got together, and they were all one complete tribe, different tribes came together. It's been the biggest thing, over 30,000 different native individuals for different tribes. But just look into it. I mean, it was just something to just say, how Africa cultivated the world. You know what I'm saying? How much it was such a big impact on the whole world. You know what I mean? Just even the structure of the pyramid. How that was you got Mexico and Brazil and America. It was just so that even signifies the growth and where it actually originated from. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's all I was.
Yeah, I wrote that down though. I'm gonna check it out.
Oh,
All right, let's watch this last maybe 30 minutes. And we can break in anytime you guys want to.
I like it.
Let's talk a little bit about the working conditions. Because one thing that we hear a lot about is how brutal it was to work, and the pyramids were built by slaves and so forth. And scholars have found that for the most part, this may not be true, right? And here's a little bit of insight I've been able to find on this. The ancient construction workers in ancient Egypt were a mix of skilled artisans and temporary hands, and some appear to have taken great pride in their craft. Here, some have found graffiti, humorous graffiti on the pyramids, which includes things like we're the drunkards of Menkaure or the friends of Khufu, just like different groups calling themselves different names as they were building. Actually, the idea that slaves built the pyramids was first brought up by Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC. So this is thousands of years after the pyramids had been built, right? But most historians now dismiss it as myth. While the ancient Egyptians, of course, kept some slaves, they appear to have mostly used them as field hands and domestic servants. And the most famous example came in 12th century BCE, which is in the New Kingdom, which we'll talk about a little bit later, when laborers engaged in, when they were not paid, they would get paid in grain, right? But when they were not paid, they organized one of the first recorded strikes in history. The protest took the form of a sit-in. The workers simply entered nearby mortuary temples and refused to leave until their grievances were heard. Their gamble worked, and the laborers were eventually given their overdue rations of grain. So the idea of the pyramids being built exclusively by slaves or prominently by slaves has been challenged by many historians who actually say that people were getting paid to work here, and a lot of them took great pride in doing this work.
They were master builders.
Another narrative that comes up prominently.
Go ahead,
They
Gerald.
were master builders. That's where we get that concept from. They were the original masons who worked in stone. It was a craft, and they were proud to mirror that. But from that, if you was making bread, and we all made bread together, that was their craft, and they was proud as hell to be bread makers. Whatever they've done, they made a craft of it. And nothing was looked down because everything was equal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whatever you was. But when you start talking about the pyramids, that's building in stone. When y'all keep talking about how symmetric that shit was and how even that master fucking builder.
Right.
And this is what our ancestors were doing to make sure that y'all can't say, as we can, we retarded or we didn't have no contribution to civilization. We built in stone.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And some of our coldest shit is our tombs, our burial tombs. When you get into how we was building that, man, what?
Right.
Yeah. My man. I just had to get that out.
No, man, that's good stuff, man. It's recognize the craftsmanship and recognize where shit really came from, man, and recognize the people, man, and the greatness of it instead of shitting on them.
Well, the thing, yeah, like Gerald said, man, like them was Masons, man. And you got to look at when you look at what was built over here, or what they claim is built over here, or just look at is it still standing up type shit, you know what I'm saying? So you got to understand, you know, who built it.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. That's a good point. That's a good
Is this
point.
shit still standing up, or is it shit that fell down? Because the stuff that we built is still standing up.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? Is it built in stone or is it built in mud?
They
And you know
tried
what
to
I'm
tear it
saying?
down. All they could do
Yeah,
was hit the nose.
There
you
it
know.
is.
So that's all I'm saying is you know that you know I because and he's showing that it was no slavery. He's showing it wasn't no slavery. You know what I'm saying? It was it wasn't no slavery because he's showing the workers and they was working for beer and bread. Go ahead.
Master builders. Ain't no
That's right.
slave build. Yeah.
No,
That's
they
their
had
way of
skills.
thinking. Yeah. Yeah. These skills. Imhotep is the one who started this shit. They call him a multi-genius.
That's right.
Well, no slave.
Well, no,
Multi-genius. Yeah. So the people that he taught and came up under him and learned that skill, they were master builders.
stone masons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you have to remember that Herodotus wrote after, what did he say, thousands of years after the monuments was built. All right, so you can't get stuck on Herodotus wrote about it, so he knows all about it, and he was there, right? Talking real facts, real evidence at least. So
right.
just giving proper due to. I'm sure somebody else wrote about and our from our people wrote about what they was doing. I don't know if they wrote, but they knew they was there.
Yeah, good point.
No, they buildings, as you said, they great buildings. They tear them down. They're not even meant to last long. They
Right.
stadiums and all that kind of shit. They blow them motherfuckers up and
Right.
build stuff up to last 50 years maybe. Then it ain't gonna last too much longer. It's gonna start cracking. It's gonna be a health hazard. They're gonna blow that motherfucker up and build something else.
Right. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. It ain't even built to last time. Go ahead, my man.
Yeah. And my point is just that they built them. All right. They know the record. All right.
Mhm.
I believe that ripples through us. That's why, we have discrepancies. Don't be talking about our ancestors unless you're talking good. I guess you can't leave out bad stuff, but let's get some more of this.
Is this idea of the pyramid having been built by aliens. I think I'll share this meme sort of and that is something that the History Channel has devolved into the farce that it has become in recent years. This is where some of these narratives have been coming from. It's just ridiculous, right? And a lot of it really rests, on racist narratives that try to deny African people of any agency in doing well, right? Any agency in the amazing, right? It's really based in that sort of narrative. You've seen this not just with Egypt, we've seen this with the Great Zimbabwe. We've seen it even in recent times with how folks talk about how Africa has been able to withstand the worst part of COVID. And they try to come up with all kinds of crazy theories, right? But there's a lot of things that we have going for us as Africans. And I've done a whole video on that COVID thing. So, I'll share that link as well in the description. But I just thought this was a humorous insight into some of these conversations. So, a little bit about the Old Kingdom here. Let's talk about the Middle Kingdom. Remember, the Old Kingdom falls apart, right? And for 100 years, there are no pyramids being built, the Nubians recaptured their territory. Okay, so King Mentuhotep II is able to reunify Egypt at the turn of the second millennia BC, coming into the 1000 BCs, right? Reconquered the provinces that had rebelled, and you see that the return of divine kingship, right, where the kings are the gods once again. And in time, his successors will reconquer the territories of Nubia. They reconnect with in trade with Western Asia, which again is around the area of Palestine and parts of what we call the Middle East today. They are trading with that. And one of the things that define the Middle Kingdom is it is an era of great craftsmanship, right? This is when the artistry of the hieroglyphics took a whole different level. And they were the hieroglyphics were no longer just for the elite. Back in the day, it was just like if you were elite, you could read and write, so to speak, which is a dynamic you've seen in other communities as well. But now everybody was starting to do hieroglyphics. And it just got way more nuanced. So, for example, when you're looking at this graphic on the slide, you can tell that it's very beautiful, artistic, different colors, different hues of people, and so forth, right? In fact, I think this one might actually evoke, after the Nubians they've been reconquered. I think this image, you can see that some of the folks here are darker skinned than others, as a form of the Nubians who have been reconquered, sort of paying tribute to Mentuhotep Mentuhotep's successors, or whoever the king of the day was. In addition to making hieroglyphics available for the non-elites, you also see afterlife provisions for local leaders. In the past, only kings would get these pyramids, or royal family would get these pyramids and other afterlife provisions. But now you're starting to see other local leaders get the same sort of treatment. So they would last for a long time as well, and eventually collapse, largely due to an invasion by the people we call the East Coast people, who came from Western Asia. Now, the East Coast people, there's some debates on who they were, but a lot of scholarship has them coming from north of Palestine, or what we call modern day Israel as the area there. So, and we'll tie this into some biblical stories as we get into the next slide. But just think about that. And they ruled the space for more than a century. And one of the things that why they were able to capture the Middle Kingdom with some ease is that even though the Middle Kingdom was getting more sophisticated, they still did not have a standing army. So when you don't have a standing army, oftentimes it makes your conquering to be pretty easy. So it's a little bit about the Middle Kingdom here. And while we're here, let me touch on that topic around the ancient name of Egypt. So ancient Egypt, what we call ancient Egypt today would not have been called Egypt at the time, right? It was called Kemet. And Kemet means black land. Some Afrocentric scholars try to, will argue that means the land of black people. But actually, the largely agreed upon assertion is that it means black land, as in the soil of it was dark. And the reason why I go with that one is because the other part of it is known as Deshret, which is where we get the word desert from, which means red land. So sort of just because those go side by side, with part of it in the fertile Nile River basin, right? Is known as Kemet, while that of the desert side is known as Deshret. The fact that those names are referred to the two territories make me feel like the soil is the differentiating factor between the two, because the dark-skinned people would have lived on either side of that, right? So that's where the word Kemet came from. So when you talk about Kemetic scholarship, when you're studying Egyptology or this stuff from back in the day, you will hear the term Kemet. That's not that we're talking about this area we call modern day Egypt, even though it expands. As you can see in the map, often it would expand way down into Nubia, way into Western Asia as well sometimes. Okay. Other names for the territory that came later was Tamari, which means the beloved land, or Mizr, which means just the land. And actually, for many Egyptians in Egypt, they refer to the country as Misr. The name Egypt comes in much later during the New Kingdom, as I've stated, and it comes from the Greek word which is Aegyptos. Aegyptos is a sort of a Greekified version of the term Hot Kapta, which means the mansion of the spirit of Ptah. So, and this was the name of Memphis, right? So, in fact, the country became known after Memphis. So, Memphis was the capital. Remember I said that? And in Memphis, there was a huge house or temple for the god Ptah. So Memphis was known as that house was known as the mansion of the spirit of Ptah, or house of Ptah, or Kapta.
So that would really, as we talk about, Ptah would be a netcher and not a real person, right?
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I just want to, for the audience.
And when it got back to Greek, and it became Aegyptos. You can tell that it kind of sounds similar, Aegyptos. So that's where eventually the name was Anglified and became Egypt, and it's been Egypt since then. Interestingly, when you think about the Coptic Church, the Coptic Church, we talk about the Christians in Egypt, one known as the Coptics. And you might even find them in Ethiopia and other places like that. You talk about the Coptic Church. The Coptic Church, the word Coptic, also comes from the same term as Egypt. That's where that Ptah sound comes from. So you say when you say Hot Kapta or Aegyptos. So even though the Coptic is essentially a Christian church, right? It would have nothing to do with the House of Ptah as far as its doctrine goes. But it actually derives its name from the same thing. So just a little tidbit there before we go into the New Kingdom. So after the East Coast took over, and they ruled for 100 years or so, Egypt rebounded and became a major world power, right? Became a major world power. And one of the things that they did immediately was establish a standing army, right? They established a standing army to make sure that the East Coast things don't happen again. And the empire really grew, spread to Palestine and Syria and south into Nubia. It is that map we were just looking at earlier. Let's go back to it here, right? This is Palestine and places like that, and all the way down into Nubia. So it grows again, right? Really expands. And in fact, a lot of the things that we know, that except for the pyramids and the Sphinx, a lot of the things that we know when we think about ancient Egypt today come from the New Kingdom. So when you look at people like Nefertiti, Ramses, right? King Ramses, Nefertiti, you are looking at all kings from the New Kingdom. Even the title of Pharaoh, right? Like prior to this, the kings were not called Pharaoh. So when you're talking about pharaohs, you're talking about the kings of the New Kingdom. Okay. So a lot of the things that we identify most easily with Egypt come from the New Kingdom. They also built this Karnak temple, which I believe to this day remains the biggest religious building in the world, the Karnak temple. Then you have one of the fascinating things was also like they even had, well, of course they had queens, right? That's why we get people like Nefertiti. But you also had female kings who, say, a brother who was king died or something, and the sister filled in. She would not fill in as a queen, she would fill in as a king. So one of the kings we had, who was famous, was Hatshepsut, whose statue is here. King Hatshepsut, female king, who was known for establishing trade down the Red Sea to the land of Punt. I think the land of Punt is, I think it's modern day Ethiopia. There's debates too about where exactly is the land of Punt to this day. But again, she was a very influential king as a female king. So these are some of the great things that came out of the New Kingdom, with these different folks reigning and so forth. But since we're talking about both Queen Nefertiti and King Hatshepsut was a female queen, let's look a little bit at women's rights in ancient Egypt. This is something that people don't talk about a lot, right? And people just assume that in such an old-timey patriarchal society based on labor and so forth, the women were probably treated like lesser beings, right? And after all, this was 3,000 years ago. While they may have been publicly and socially viewed as inferior to men, Egyptian women actually enjoyed a great deal of legal and financial independence. They could, among other things, buy and sell property, serve on juries, make wills, and even enter into legal contracts. Egyptian women did not typically work outside their home, but those who did usually received equal pay for doing the same jobs as men. Unlike women in ancient Greece, for example, who were effectively owned by their husbands, Egyptian women also had the right to divorce and remarry. Egyptian couples were even known to negotiate an ancient prenuptial agreement. These contracts listed all the property and wealth the woman had brought into the marriage and guaranteed that she would be compensated for it in the event of a divorce. That's crazy. Just to think about that. These are things that communities today are still struggling with. Even some of the more liberal communities to this day have struggled with that. And once we go down the pecking order, we'll find that a lot of people, women still can't even say buy and sell property in some places, and so forth. And the idea of a prenuptial agreement is still in so many places, right? So talk about the blueprint. This is 3,000 years ago, guys. And the women's rights already looked like this. So that is pretty fascinating to me. So let's talk about the end of the New Kingdom. What brought the New Kingdom to an end? So the late period, the empire was severely weakened after 1100 BC. Okay. Then the countries that they conquered, the territories they conquered, such as the Palestinians and the Nubians, broke free. Had broken free from the empire prior to that. The Nubians asserted their own independence. Then after that, they were also attacked again by the groups that had broken away, such as the Nubians. The Assyrians and the Persians began to attack. Actually, interestingly, there's talk about, you guys may know the biblical story of the Israelites fleeing from Egypt, and some say this Palestine breaking free from that rule actually points to that event. Because remember, they keep calling that king the Pharaoh, and of course the Pharaoh is a product of the New Kingdom, so it couldn't have been much earlier. And remember, we said how the Hyksos had conquered Egypt, and now they were fleeing, and they were now breaking away from the rule of the Egyptians, right? So some people have suggested that that's where that story finds its roots in. Then after that, after those, as we went into the last millennium BC, power goes back and forth between different groups. And one of the more famous one was the Nubian kings of Kush, who were part of the 25th dynasty, which is also known as the Black Dynasty, right? Because these people are again from Sudan, from the Sudan territory, which is, if you guys know, the Nilotic people, very dark-skinned, so that they would have ruled over Egypt, for this 70-year period, during what is known as the 25th dynasty, or the Black Dynasty. Is pretty remarkable. Then they were eventually driven out by another group that was attacking out of Asia, known as the Assyrians, and so forth and so forth. And the powers would go back and forth. Every now and then the Egyptians would reassert themselves but they finally fell to the Greeks in 332 BC. Who the Greeks at that point were expanding under the leadership of Alexander of Macedon, who is commonly known as Alexander the Great, okay, and was governed by General Ptolemy. And Ptolemy gives the name to the dynasty. It was known as the Ptolemaic dynasty, and and that dynasty reigned until 30 BCE, so just before the Common Era, with Cleopatra being the last one to reign in that bloodline. Now, Cleopatra is very fascinating to me because I've put here this image of her because I figure that's an approximation of what I imagine she would look like. The reason Cleopatra is so fascinating is because she's often this, and right now this is happening because I think there's a Cleopatra movie coming out with Gal Gadot of Wonder Woman fame, supposed to be playing Cleopatra, and she is often the subject of conversations about whitewashing by Hollywood and other Eurocentric media. What do I mean by that? Well, as you well know, that historically things of Africa, of Black people, have been scrubbed out with agency being given to whitewashed versions of them, right? You see this all the time. I won't even start going through the examples of where a character that was historically Black or definitely not white is played by a white person, right? And that's usually, when that's not the case, sometimes they have the Black person and a white person whose role is magnified that it actually was in reality, just so as to make that happen, right? So a lot of people, and I think back in the 60s or 70s, Elizabeth Taylor played Cleopatra in a movie, and that's another example of that conversation on whitewashing. So people will push back, particularly people from the Afrocentric community, say like, well, why would you have this Egyptian queen played by these white women? Okay, so that's the argument, and I get that given the precedence of whitewashing. However, I believe that it is misguided in that for a couple of reasons. First of all, if we can accept that the Ptolemaic dynasty, which was Greek or Macedonian, took over ancient Egypt towards the end of it, and she was of that bloodline, at best she might have been mixed with African, but she was from that bloodline. So chances of her being Black are close to zero, right? And I don't think that's even the biggest issue right there. So that's why I put her not necessarily as white, because Macedonians are olive-skinned, and if she had been mixed, then it may be a little different. However, what I think is more important for me, where I think like people lose me with this debate, is because it plays right into the same Eurocentric narrative that we set out to combat. What do I mean? Well, why the fascination with Cleopatra alone? Well, the reason why we focus so much on Cleopatra alone is because Shakespeare has written about her, and the Western media likes to talk about her, and she's in this story with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony and so forth. So now when we choose to fight the Western media on their terms and reclaim this woman who, for all intents and purposes, is of Macedonian descent by record. What we are doing when we engage in that fight is we are saying Cleopatra is the one who matters, because you said, as the European media or the Eurocentric media, as Hollywood, that she's the one that matters. So what do we do when we lose that? When we say that? What do we lose when we say that? We lose the fact that I just went through in this lecture 4,000 years of African greatness in ancient Egypt. I've spoken about Nefertiti. I've spoken about King Hatshepsut, who was a female king who established important trade routes. I've spoken about Ramses. I've spoken about Khafra and Djoser and Imhotep for 4,000 years, right? Who are undeniably African, who are undeniably from Kemet originally. Yet we decide to focus on this one queen because Hollywood talks about her. So no, I'm willing to concede that Cleopatra was of Macedonian descent. That takes nothing away from the grandeur of ancient Egypt.
I agree.
We just went through 4,000, 5,000 years of ancient Egypt. And for a small footnote at the end of it, right, those 300 years of Macedon rule at the end of it, among those people come this Queen Cleopatra. And if we think that changes the narrative of African greatness in ancient Egypt, then we are horribly misguided, and we really need to reconsider how we're pushing back against these racist narratives, right? And I didn't come here to focus so much on that. That's a conversation we can have later. This is supposed to be an intro to African history class, but I hope my thoughts in that case make some sense and they encourage you to engage this topic further. And before I finish that, I found a quote here, and I do apologize because I can't remember exactly where I found them, but it broke it down in a way that I felt like, okay, this is what I've been looking for. It was a question on an Afrocentric site, and again, I do apologize. If anybody knows which one it is, do let me know. In the African American oral tradition, Cleopatra is often said to be an African woman. However, many academics who follow an African-centered approach to Kemet ignore her. This is because Cleopatra's family came to Kemet from Macedonia, right? Her family had lived in Kemet for around 300 years before she was born. Everything I've been saying. Unlike earlier kings of Kemet, the Ptolemies, as they were known, usually took only one official wife but had many mistresses and concubines. These relationships often resulted in children who were illegitimate. Cleopatra and her father were born from such relationships, and it has been suggested to both her mother and grandmother were native to Kemet and so Africans. This is because of the close ties between royal family and the native elite in Kemet, and the fact that the Ptolemies had been in Kemet for so long at this point. Statues of Cleopatra suggest that the queen was part African and the Romans referred to her as Egyptian, not as Greek. So there's very well a chance that within that bloodline, she could be part African, which is great. But what is important is not to lose sight of the forest for the trees as we argue for this one figure as the end all and be all of ancient Egypt, when we have thousands of other years of greatness. By the time Cleopatra came about, the pyramids had been built, hieroglyphics had been established. The biggest religious building in the world had been built, and so forth. So she really is a footnote in that trajectory. And once we start to acknowledge her within that large trajectory, it starts to make sense. Okay, so that's a little bit about my rant about that. But yeah, what are our key takeaways? I'll leave you guys to look over these and spend your time on them. When and why farming develops. Why did the civilizations develop around the Nile? What necessitated the idea of social hierarchies and kingship? What are the defining features of each kingdom? What led to each kingdom's decline? Know about the women's rights. Also important to this, I think, is knowing about the name, right, Kemet, and how it transitioned to Egypt. And with that said, we are done for today. I'll stop sharing here. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this first lecture of the year. It's been great talking to you guys about this. And if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like it. Make sure you share it with somebody who can share it with somebody who can share it with somebody else. And until next time, I'll see y'all. One.
Hey, yeah, I like that, brother, man. Yeah, good teaching, man.
One, two.
Yeah, and there's other joints, man, is really good too, man. Like, I had a really hard time picking, which one to play, and so I thought he was on point too. And the thing too, man, is, I learned some things to be able to distinguish. Is it worthy to be shown here? And shouldn't say worthy, but just to to match what you know, what I've learned and stuff. So it didn't take a whole lot of pulling out papers or opening up the scroll and all those kind of things, man. You know, it's right here and, you know, in size and stuff. So I was glad to be able to present something that you guys appreciate. Open your mic, Jamie.
Yeah, that was right on, man. What do you think? What you think, Prince?
What you think about that, Prince?
It was good, man. Very informative. It was really good, though, too.
Yeah, yeah,
Here?
yeah.
I enjoyed it. You know, I I was kind of surprised at how much I remembered from earlier teachings, and I could relate it to what he was saying, and then added in a lot of what he was expressing, and I found it real interesting, and I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Right. And Gerald, what you think, King? What you think about it?
And it was on point. Good information. Went through all the dynasties, went through the history. That's what our people need to know, you know.
Exactly, man. Those timelines he was on, man. He went through. That's history right there. That's how you step through history, point for point, and you walk your way down. See, they walked all the way down to the to the 30th to the to 30 BCE down until Cleopatra died. They went all the way down. They went all the way from you see what I'm saying? You see how he walked all the way down to 30 BCE,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? All the way right before the Romans came in.
Yeah.
Right before the Romans came in. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, so just that's powerful, man. And that's important for us to realize this is how if you know the history, no one can trick you. It's real easy, man. If you just because he literally walked you down. And when you study these time frames, you will see where these different belief systems came in at. You'll see it, man. You'll see where they came in at. You'll see where they phased out at. You see where the new one came in and you know what I'm saying and grew and grew and grew. You know, stuff like that, man. You will see that. You'll see the development of these different denominations and different religions, man. You'll see when they came into play, when they developed and when, you know what I'm saying, and what happened, you know what I'm saying, what it was about. You know what I'm saying? And this way no one can trick you, man, you know, about waiting on somebody to come back and save you. Uh, but I like that, man. I like the way he did that. Go ahead, King. I'm done.
Hey, so let me just show you this real quick. This is just a quick view of one of his other videos. Um, so right, oh, you can't see that shit. Hold up.
Yeah, yeah, just share it.
Yeah, I'm gonna just share it.
Yeah, just share it.
Yeah, let me get back to you. Let's take a second. So here, you know, this is you know, the advent of Christian missionaries and European imperialism. And he breaks down and on this one, where my pointer is the church that Mark from the Bible, which is what they're saying. So my question is, you know, I got a question about that. Mark built in 45 AD, and then it moves on up, right? And then it goes to I think it's let me get off this one. Then it'll go to these cats here. this king was he had bought into some of they had lost a lot of the traditional Christian aspect of and then bought into the new shit, right? And then this dude is his son, which he was a son of, I think, that Moses cat, which was the third picture. And this dude here, he bought all the way into the new form of Christianity, and it lost all the traditional stuff. So, we studied, what the traditional Christianity is and the varieties of them. So that was a good video. And then this one is about the 4 languages, right? The 4 major languages, which he said, how many languages do you think they had there? 10, 20, and I think he said over 2,000. So that's the color map of the different languages, where that is brought in from, which one is more prominent, and stuff like that. So, I just brought that up, man, because you guys said that you like the videos, man, and it's informative all the way through there. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, unmute yourself, Mike James.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, man, I like the way he did that. He ran us down a timeline. You can't miss. You can't miss, man. So, well, and along them timelines, you have different things happening. You have different deities being changed and switched and invented. There's there's a lot of things happening in between these times that he's talking about. You know what I mean? One thing the Ptolemies did do is they did keep a lot of the comedic ways, or tried to. You know what I mean? But again, people wanted someone else to worship. They wanted somebody to look like them. They wanted to worship something that looked like them, someone that looked like themselves. You know what I mean? They didn't want to worship Asar no more. And so they made them one. And so you'll find this kind of stuff going on throughout those time frames that the brother took us through, and I like that, man.
Yeah. I think you'll like the other videos too, man. It was really, really powerful. The one that I didn't just show was it was talking about the influx of Thomas Jefferson, Hegel, and all these other cats, man, that just totally shit on African culture. They can't write, they can't read, they're despicable people, untrained, uncivilized, all these type of things. And so that one is super powerful too. So yeah. Glad you guys liked it. I'm glad you guys liked it, man. Unmute, Jamie.
Okay, yeah. So what about you, Gerald? You got anything else you want to add to it, King? Excuse me. No, Gerald.
Like I said, he went over the history. He broke it up into the kingdom. Got the old kingdom, the middle kingdom, and the new kingdom. Then you got the part where they conquered us. So he touched on everything, as a basic, dealing with our history. Somebody can go over the old kingdom and go more sorrow, middle kingdom and go more sorrow, and the new kingdom and go more sorrow. And that was a good overview. And, he started not even in Kemet. He started in different parts. Right. When he started talking about agriculture and whatnot. And then he said the climate change. That's when he's talking about that Sahara desert. And that dude was talking about the last time. The Sahara. the Sahara.
It's
The
the green
Sahara.
now. The green now.
Yeah. Then they moved everybody to the Nile. Then they said the Nile had an influx of a bunch of people. A bunch of people who had different cultures and backgrounds. And they all got together and they built a great civilization and lasted, over 2,000 years. Over 3,000 years. So that's just
Yeah.
that. He didn't get too much into the spiritual part, but that was the
Right.
historical legacy. Now, one thing we got to look at it is that's history. That's world history. It's not just Black history, it's world history. Everybody should know that story. Not just Black, but everybody should know that. That's the last thing I'm gonna say on that.
Yeah, and a couple weeks ago we watched we got some information about the Sahara Desert and the cities underneath it and where those pictures that he showed on this one look very similar to those pictures, right? It isn't a facade, those pictures are older than the glyphs, right? So it was good to see that picture back up on there too. Just it just reminds me of when Gerald said once you start paying attention to things, more of those things start to show up, right? I know that psychologically, anyways, right? Through psychology and shit, but to actually experience it in this mindset with our culture is a bit different. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm good. I'm good.
that's the magical part of studying know thyself. Things will come right back to you to reassure what you was talking about. And it be almost like some, man, you was here, so you saw it. But if you told somebody, they wouldn't believe you. They'd think you was lying. So
Right.
I always say, that's how I know I'm on it. She'll
Right.
come right back just to reassure me that, okay, yeah, I remember that. I remember. I'm not asleep. I remember. And
Right.
once
Yeah.
it come a couple of times, then once you get the lesson, it's gonna stop. But you're gonna make sure you get that lesson.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm good, man. I'm good, Jamie.
Good. Hey man, all right, man. As always, Unc, you brought that banger, man. Brought that banger, man. Hey, Prince, glad you came, man. Glad you could join us again, King. We really appreciate your presence. Uh, you need to come on by a little more often, man. Get back in,
Sure.
get you a good routine going, and
All right.
get back in the swing of things, man. Go ahead, go ahead.
Hey, I was just gonna say, man, just ditto what Jamie said. It's real good to see your motherfucking ass. I keep on trying to grow my beard and my shit like you and my sons, man, and it ain't working, bro. Them shits is tight, man. Them shits is tight.
I
Yeah, I'm
appreciate
good. I'm
it, man.
good
I
with me.
appreciate it.
I'm good. I'm way good with me, man. But them shits be on point, man. Big ups.
All right. All right.
Yeah, that's
And I
right.
want to
Look,
say something too, man. I want to say something too, man. I
go ahead.
just finished my summer classes for Hillsborough Community College, and I got 3 credits for my reading composition class and my orientation class. So I graduated this summer, got 3 credits, and I'm ready for fall semester. And yeah, that's an accomplishment right there in itself, man. So I grinded all summer and I did it, man. So yeah, kudos to that. And I
That's what's up,
appreciate that.
man. Congratulations, King. Congratulations for real,
Already.
man. That good.
Yes,
Now
sir.
all you gotta do now is just keep on pushing. Just
Yes, sir.
go to the next part. Right. Well, good
Yeah.
job though, King. Hey, keep it up,
Thank you so
man.
much.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Uh,
You're gonna be like
yeah.
this in a minute. You're gonna be like this
You
in the
feel me?
bed.
Feel me? Feel me?
Yeah, right. Look at me. Hey,
Like you're supposed to. You're supposed to.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah.
hey, all right. Hey, Queen Carrie, you all right? You want to say something? Want to say something about it?
Well, I just want to say thanks for presenting this and good to see you, Prince.
All
Congratulations.
right.
Keep up
Thank
the
you
good
so much.
work.
Yes, ma'am.
And good to see you, Gerald. And I love all you guys. And I'm going to get off because I'm out here by Low now. And so I have an echo in my ear. But hey, good to see you all. And thank you, Low, for
Okay. All right. All right. We heard you. Sweet, sweet. Hey, well, so listen, man. Listen, family. Listen, next Sunday, got a children's book read again. Bring the kids, grandkids, cousins, nephews, nieces, bring them all, man, and set them on down, man. It's not long, real quick. We know they lose interest real quick, so we get it over with really quick, man. Spin the wheel. You put your name in the on the box. I mean on the wheel. We spin the wheel. If you win, you win a free book. It don't cost you nothing. Free book, man, mailed directly to your house, man. Won't cost you nothing. You know what I'm saying? All we ask is that you read that book, the following book read. It's not a must, but we just ask that you do that, right? All right. So listen, man. Like I said, they're changing our history. We gotta make it right. We don't want them to rewrite the history again. They've been doing it. You know what I'm saying? But now we at the age now where they're doing it again. So now what we got to do is do what we doing now is spread the information out here, put it out here, man, about this Black African history that we pushing out here, man. All right. Again, this is not just for the babies. This is also for the adults, man, because a lot of this stuff that we reading these children books, they're literally children books, but it's a lot of good information in those books, man, and a lot of people don't know. You know what I'm saying? So we just need to go in here and join up, man, and participate in that, man. It's really important. I mean, all we can do is just put the information out there. We can't force you guys to come in and get it. It's free. It don't cost you nothing. We don't ask for nothing. We're doing this for free. You know what I'm saying? We don't ask for cash apps and uh the other stuff that they got out here, man. We don't
PayPal.
ask for nothing. PayPal and all that stuff. We don't ask for none of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? All we ask is for your attention. I said, give us a like and a subscribe, share. You know what I'm saying? Comment. That's all we asking for. You know what I'm saying? We ain't asking for you to dig in your pocket and give us nothing, man. You know what I'm saying? We just asking you for just a little attention. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit, right? And then the attention of the babies. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the history, man. It's very important that we know this history. Very important that we keep this history alive, man, and keep it correct, and don't let them change it. Don't let them change it, man, because then our kids, like I said, is gonna be looking for the truth about slavery when it should just be right here, ready for you. But they're gonna change it, man, because it's embarrassment to them now. See, it was a time where they would they was taking pictures, man. They had postcards and all kind of good stuff for it. You know what I'm saying? With brothers and sisters hanging in the back. You know what I'm saying? And they made sure that they crowded in to get in the picture. You know what I'm saying? So they was really proud of the time. But now that's changed. They getting ashamed of it. And so they want to try to cover it up and don't want it to be seen. You know what I'm saying? They don't want them to, want us to know how horrible these people are, man. All right. So all I'm saying is just, hey, listen, man, join us. Hey, anybody else want to say
Hey,
something, man?
hey, yeah, I would love to. I just want to say this. Depression and addiction is real, and if you are out there and you're going through it, just get that help you need. Find out what the core is to it. Surround yourself with like brothers, these guys on this panel that I'm on here with now. And they'll show you your true who you are, and just reach out for that help, man. And like I said, addiction is real and depression is real. So if you're going through it, get that help you need. That's all I need to say.
Good shout
Yeah,
out, man.
it's
Good
a good
shout out.
message, man. Good message. Hey, listen, man. Again, like I said, man, like, subscribe, share, and give us a comment. Let us know what you think, man. You know what I'm saying? And anybody that wants to come and join, come on and join. You're all welcome. Come on in and join, man. Let us know what you think. All right. Anybody else want to say anything? Gerald, you good?
Good.
Okay.
I just want to say, that, we ain't even biased to, like, dislike, just hit one of them, right? And then put a comment underneath it. You know what I mean? So you ain't like them other platforms, man, going, erase them and all that kind of shit, or click likes to up our stuff. No, it depends on the public, man, to apply correct numbers, like we provide, accurate information, right, to the public. So and then if the orange gump gets in, and then JD Vance get in, it's going to be, I mean, they're boldly talking about eliminating this information, right? So, you know, get it while the getting is good. I believe that there's always going to be a way to get it, but get it while the getting is good, and you can always come on Sankofa and join us.
And just another thing, man. Exercise your Second Amendment, family. Everybody, exercise your Second Amendment. Exercise it, exercise it, exercise it. All right, to the fullest. Okay. Make sure that make sure that you exercise it, man. All right, that's all I'm saying. But hey, after that though, fam, hey, I'm gonna let y'all go. Thanks for joining. Like, subscribe, share, give us a comment. Let us know what you think.
Hey, I just want to double up on that plug that Prince put out there. There's a lot of mental health going on, and the post traumatic slave syndrome is a big component. So and the indoctrination and all the other stuff that goes with it is a big component to that lack of positive mental health. So we're talking about know thyself, and there's even a book on it. Hold up. Our book. Get back in this motherfucker. All right. So by
know
Naheem
that self.
Akbar, right? Right.
Mhm.
So you got to get into that. We look at it in society, we just look at the people with this um society um described issues, right? And I'm telling you that indoctrination and that post-traumatic slave system, that syndrome is real shit. So, along with stupidity. All right. Peace. Peace.
Hey man, hey, yep, we out, family. Peace. Thanks for joining, man. We out of here, man.
One.
Peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm supposed to do this.
Let me know when you're off, when you click off, Jamie, the live part.
All right.